UCLA women's basketball should be number one in the country. That's my thought. Now, that's not exactly what we're talking about, but with how UCLA can structure their lineup, it's so talented with Corey Close, what she's constructed this year, despite what the Bruins lost after a Final Four run, that with their starting five and their closing five potential, it can go against anybody, including the UConns, the South Carolinas, or a healthy USC for that matter, for Big Ten supremacy. Chris, hit me with it. Your starting five for UCLA women's basketball.
I have Kiki Rice at the point guard position. I have Charlize Ledger-Walker at the 2. I have Gianna Neepkins at the 3. I have Tamia Gardner at the 4, and I have Lauren Betts at the 5. Now, I broke this down. I wanted to go with a mix of offense, defense, and experience. So that's why I picked these people. Now, when you're looking at Sienna Betts and Gabby Jaquez, those are two high-level players that we may indeed see in the starting lineup at some point of the season. But I think that Coach Close, to start off the season, goes with this crew.
For me, okay, let me go with this right now. This is where I think Corey Close is going to go. I could be wrong. I don't have any insight. This is just where I think. Okay, so we're going to go with Kiki. You're going to go with CLW, Charlize Ledger-Walker, John Neepkins. And just because it's been this way, I think Dugalich will be the 4 and then Betts the 5. I don't agree with it. I think that's where it might actually go. My starting 5 would actually have Jaquez as the 4 and then Betts as the 5. Now we can transition into where we could go with that. Now, the thing is, maybe Gabriela Jaquez could be the 3. You could put Neepkins to the 4 as a small ball. I'm not sure that would work as much. Jaquez is like a physical guard that can very much play the 4. It's a little different in women's basketball. But I think for what UCLA can do, a lot of interchangeable parts because you still have Sienna. You still have, I forget the freshman coming in, but you have a lot of talented pieces. And Tamia Gardner is somebody who could probably be better served coming off the bench in my mind as that 3-point threat. And I think Hawkins could probably go for longer spurts. Well, I think you do have to save Gardner, but you can still certainly start. She's more than deserving.
Yeah, and you could go either way, but it just depends on how you want to come out and start the game. I feel like Gardner in the starting lineup will create unprecedented amounts of space for Lauren Betts if you put her alongside Neepkins. I mean, though you're talking about a 39% and a 44% three-point shooter, spacing is everything for Lauren Betts going into her senior season, where she's a projected number 1 draft pick. I mean, we want to get her the National Player of the Year. So I think Coach Close will build, right? So she's going to experiment, try to look and see what works. But Gardner, I mean, on paper, for me, as just in this new era of pace and not new era of pace and space, but in this new basketball era, especially in the women's game, where it's very rare you have a power forward shooting at almost 40% and, you know, another player at 44% in the 3. So I think she goes there. Dugalich has the experience. She's battle tested. She's tough. I agree with you on that she possibly could start. No question about it. But I think from just in building a chemistry standpoint, I think it'd be Gardner.
Yeah, I wonder where you have Dugalich, right? Who is kind of, some people crack the starting lineup, but then that's the only 5 to 10 minutes they get, other than a few. It's a different, like, we're going to start the game. We'll be a veteran. But I'm not sure that's where UCLA should even go this year. Do you see a role where Dugalich is impactful, or is she clearly a reserve behind the Sienna Betts, behind all those players that could play in front of her?
You know, judging on Coach Close's track record, looking at the last couple of seasons and how Angela has been played and performed, I don't think that she's going to be a reserve. I think that she's earned Coach Close's trust, and she, as a 6-year senior, she definitely is the most experienced player on the roster, and that goes very far. She's a grown woman and playing in a girl's game, if you will. And that matters. That matters. So I think that she won't be necessarily afterthought, but I definitely don't think she'll be, you know, prime focus. What you're talking about, spot minutes, you know, get her 7 minutes in the first half, 7 minutes, eight minutes in the second half. You got to remember, too, this is a thin UCLA roster. There isn't just a ton of depth. So the people that are going to play are going to play. You don't have the situation where last year with Janiah Barker and 4 freshmen that expected to play, where Coach Close had those rotation issues. as far as the rotation dramas, what I like to call it, where you saw Janiah Barker kind of pissed off whenever she would come out the game. So this year, I think with the smaller roster and with the talent and as far as the depth piled at every position, I think that a platoon in a situation where minutes are dispersed evenly or somewhat evenly to where people are okay and they're going to come in and play hard, and it's going to lead us to a successful season.
And the thing is, I think the chemistry could be a lot better. All right. I think, with no Barker, I think that could be, because Barker was clearly big time, but it's tough to crack that starting five, closing five. And it just never seemed like she fully earned the trust, or you're kind of, with so much talent at every spot in last year's roster, you're kind of pigeonholed into one spot, where I think Barker could thrive in a different role and more opportunity. Each player on this UCLA team between CLW could handle the ball. Gave Kiki some minutes off of just straight up bringing the basketball. You have Lena Bilic, who was the player that was on the top of my mind I couldn't bring up. Is there a world where we saw Kiki, she did struggle, clearly a top-tier talent in the Big Ten across the country. Is there a world where she could get outplayed by the freshmen and someone else brings up the ball later in the season or in closing minutes, or am I just completely off base and I should be quiet?
No, your thought isn't off base. Now, you said the freshman. I don't think it'll be the freshman. I think that Kiki is the primary engine for this UCLA team. But Charlize Ledger-Walker is a more than capable secondary ball handler against pressure and can alleviate some of that stuff we saw Kiki get into last year. A lot of what Kiki ran into was being literally the only ball handler that was able to bring it up. So she's undergoing 94 feet of pressure. Coaches were figuring out that, hey, we got to harass her. We got to make her turn, make her do things. And so at times Kiki had high turnover games. But I think that with Charlize Ledger-Walker and Neepkins, to a certain standpoint, that they won't have the same issues with bringing the ball and advancing the ball up court.
And here's another thing. Let's think about it this way. You could go Kiki as the 1, Bilic as the 2, as a ball handling 2. You could go Neepkins 3, CLW as the 4, flip those 2, and Lauren Betts. If you need like a ball handling quartet on the floor, now that would be a very interesting thought, but they're going to come out and pressure. And you're like, Lauren Betts by herself could dominate the post. You would still have your shooters, you'd have ball handlers, and you'd have multiple of them. So you could have good decision makers to inbound the basketball, allow Betts to get down the floor. And I'm not sure if that would work, but that's just a thought that came into my mind, where we didn't always see Arnasalo and Rice hit the floor together. But if that in the world works, you'd have a lot of ball handlers and potential good entry passers to Lauren Betts, which they struggled with last year.
I mean, it's a very interesting concept that you pose, Zach. I mean, CLW at the 4. I mean, a very small lineup with good shooters, spacing, ball handling. I mean, it's a look that if I were Coach Close, I'd probably do it an exhibition season as a tune-up, just to kind of see if I really want to try it later on in the season. It wouldn't be something that I would employ in the throes of the Big Ten Conference. But if it worked earlier, you might want to just surprise some people in a couple of possessions. But I think that the bottom line, she has options with one of the most versatile lineups in college basketball and deep lineups in college basketball. The concept of the Betts sisters being on the floor at the same time, working the high-low, dominating the glass, dominating the paint. They both do things defensively that belie their stature. 6'7", 6'4". They move like they're 6'2" and 5'11" at times in certain basketball situations. So Coach Close has a lot of options, but I do think that the safe bets will win out. The safe bets for the starters and the lineups. Like,
pun intended. Pun definitely intended. The safe bets.
Yeah, but you may tinker and you may try something with what you're talking about just to see how it will work. But again, safe bet.
All right, we'll go with the final points here. Closing 5. Who do you trust late in the game when it comes to, you need to close the game out? You need a couple of buckets. You got to beat a healthy USC with JUJU. You got to go beat UConn. Things are going wrong, and you're facing UConn in the Final Four, the Elite 8, South Carolina. Who do you think they go to? Obviously, each situation is different. If you need a 3 versus just Lauren Betts getting the ball in the post, who do you trust?
I mean, it's a tough question because of the talent. And so somebody has to be left out. So somebody got to be on the bench when everybody else is trying to win a game against UConn. And I think that person potentially may be Gabby Jaquez. Now, how people are playing will dictate. Now, if Gabby's in, she's giving us that energy that she plays with, and if she can consistently put that together, game in, game out, and be a threat from on all three levels, scoring and on the glass, and as a ball handler, facilitator, then I think that she could have the potential to close. But if that, let's say in the world where that's not happening, I'd say it would be Kiki, Charlize, Gianna. I'm going Gardner and Betts. Now, Gardner presents a defensive conundrum of sorts for UCLA in crunch time, but she's also very tournament tested, hit some big shots. Cold,
LSU.
Ice in her veins. Exactly. I'm thinking of those three. But just like that means something for me, and I know it means something for coaches in college basketball when you got a player that didn't wilt under the bright lights, that stepped up. Like that earns a level of trust from a coach that you just can't never really replace with anything unless another player duplicates that type of production.
Here's my thoughts. If UCLA is winning, you need Jaquez on the floor. Like you need that defense. You need the rebounding. Gabriela Jaquez must be on the floor. Not that she shouldn't be if they're losing, but it just seemed like sometimes, because it was very rare when they're late or they're losing late in games. But so it's tough to, sometimes it's good when you struggle a little bit in the season. But in this case, UCLA is just not always going to face that opportunity throughout the course of the regular season. If they're down, then I think Gardner, if they're down by like 6, 7, 8 points, Gardner has to be in the game because of 3-point opportunities. If they're winning or it's a tight game, then Jaquez has to be in. And then the fascinating discussion is, where does Sienna come in? Is it clearly a Lauren for Sienna substitution? Do you go with the twin posts? But then that really clogs up the paint, but opens up the shooting, and that's the sacrifice you take, and you hope every rebound goes your way? That's just the fascinating debate. Corey Close is probably flipping a coin right in there every time. I think with winning, you have to go with Jaquez. If you're losing, then you're going with the likes of Gardner. And then if you really need a rebound in the final seconds, then it's Sienna, it's Lauren, it's Jaquez, it's Gianna, and it's Kiki. I think that would be the number. That would be the lineup if you're going real crazy with it.
Okay, I like that. I like that lineup. Last thing on that, the beauty of this UCLA team is that the players have bought in and embraced their roles, whatever those may be. So Jaquez not tripping on the bench. Gardner's not tripping on the bench. If the roles were reversed, I don't think they're tripping either. So I think that that's the beauty of this team. Selfless unit here. So all with the goal of winning the national championship.
I mean, if they're tripping about the roles, final point, Chris, if you're on this roster, you know what the goal is. This is your team. This is your time. You can literally go to YouTube. You can go watch the highlight, go watch the Final Four. Be like, we got here. If they wanted personal goals, they'd be somewhere else. If they wanted to go have individual dominant stats, they could play it anywhere in the country and be a number 1, number 2 option. They're on this team for one reason, and that's to be a legendary unit to take on a UConn, to take on a healthy USC. Yep. If you need the remembrance, go put on the tape of what happened in early April and get the reminder. I mean, I don't want to say it like that, but that's kind of how it is. If they have a reminder, that's how it's got to be. You just if you need a reminder, go put on the tape and you'll really quickly get there.
No, put on the tape, but like you say, they would be somewhere else if they didn't know what time it is at UCLA. This crew knows what time it is, and I'm excited to see them all come together.